Chapter 2, Part 1 of Totem and Taboo. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Totem and Taboo by Sigmund Freud. Chapter 2, Taboo and the Ambivalence of Emotions. Part 1. Section 1. Taboo is a Polynesian word, the translation of which provides difficulties for us because we no longer possess the idea which it connotes. It was still current with the ancient Romans. Their word sacer was the same as the taboo of the Polynesians. The agos of the Greeks and the kodesh of the Hebrews must also have signified the same thing which the Polynesians expressed through their word taboo, and what many races in America, Africa, Madagascar, northern and central Asia express through analogous designations. For us, the meaning of taboo branches off into two opposite directions. On the one hand, it means to us sacred, consecrated, but on the other hand, it means uncanny, dangerous, forbidden, and unclean. The opposite of taboo is designated in Polynesian by the word noa. This signifies something ordinary and generally accessible. Thus, something like the concept of reserve inheres in taboo. Taboo expresses itself essentially in prohibitions and restrictions. Our combinations of holy dread would often express the meaning of taboo. The taboo restrictions are different from religious or moral prohibitions. They are not traced to a commandment of a god, but really they themselves impose their own prohibitions. They are differentiated from moral prohibitions by failing to be included in a system which declares abstinences in general to be necessary and gives reasons for this necessity. The taboo prohibitions lack all justification and are of unknown origin. Though incomprehensible to us, they are taken as a matter of course by those who are under their dominance. Wundt calls taboo the oldest unwritten code of law of humanity. It is generally assumed that taboo is older than the gods and goes back to the pre-religious age. As we are in need of an impartial presentation of the subject of taboo before subjecting it to psychoanalytic consideration, I shall now cite an excerpt from the article Taboo in the Encyclopaedia Britannica, written by the anthropologist Northcote W. Thomas. Footnote: 11th edition. This article also gives the most important references. End footnote. Quote, "Properly speaking, taboo includes only (a) the sacred or unclean character of persons or things, (b) the kind of prohibition which results from this character, and (c) the sanctity or uncleanliness which results from a violation of the prohibition. The converse of taboo in Polynesia is noa, and allied forms which mean general or common. Various classes of taboo in the wider sense may be distinguished. 1. Natural or direct, the result of mana, mysterious power, inherent in a person or thing. 2. Communicated or indirect, equally the result of mana, but (a) acquired or (b) imposed by a priest, chief, or other person. 3. Intermediate, where both factors are present, as in the appropriation of a wife to her husband. The term taboo is also applied to ritual prohibitions of a different nature, but its use in these senses is better avoided. It might be argued that the term should be extended to embrace cases in which the sanction of the prohibition is the creation of a god or spirit, that is, to religious interdictions as distinguished from magical. But there is neither automatic action nor contagion in such a case, and a better term for it is religious interdiction. The objects of taboo are many. 1. Direct taboos aim at (a) protection of important persons, chiefs, priests, etc., and things against harm. (b) Safeguarding of the weak, women, children, and common people generally, from the powerful mana, magical influence, of chiefs and priests. (c) Providing against the dangers incurred by handling or coming in contact with corpses, by eating certain food, etc. (d) Guarding the chief acts of life, births, initiation, marriage, and sexual functions, against interference. (e) Securing human beings against the wrath or power of gods and spirits. Footnote: this application of the taboo can be omitted as not originally belonging in this connection. End footnote. (f) Securing unborn infants and young children, who stand in a specially sympathetic relation with their parents, from the consequences of certain actions, and more especially from the communication of qualities supposed to be derived from certain foods. 2. Taboos are imposed in order to secure against thieves the property of an individual, his fields, tools, etc." Other parts of the article may be summarized as follows. Originally, the punishment for the violation of a taboo was probably left to an inner automatic arrangement. The violated taboo avenged itself. Wherever the taboo was related to ideas of gods and demons, an automatic punishment was expected from the power of the godhead. In other cases, probably as the result of a further development of the idea, society took over the punishment of the offender, whose action has endangered his companions. Thus man's first systems of punishment are also connected with taboo. "The violation of taboo makes the offender himself taboo." The author goes on to say that certain dangers resulting from the violation of a taboo may be exorcised through acts of penance and ceremonies of purification. A peculiar power inherent in persons and ghosts, which can be transmitted from them to inanimate objects, is regarded as the source of the taboo. This part of the article reads as follows: "Persons or things which are regarded as taboo may be compared to objects charged with electricity. They are the seat of tremendous power which is transmittable by contact, and may be liberated with destructive effect if the organisms which provoke its discharge are too weak to resist it. The result of a violation of taboo depends partly on the strength of the magical influence inherent in the taboo object or person, partly on the strength of the opposing mana of the violator of the taboo. Thus kings and chiefs are possessed of great power, and it is death for their subjects to address them directly. But a minister or other person of greater mana than common can approach them unharmed, and can in turn be approached by their inferiors without risk. So too indirect taboos depend for their strength on the mana of him who opposes them. If it is a chief or priest, they are more powerful than those imposed by a common person." The fact that a taboo is transmissible has surely given rise to the effort of removing it through expiatory ceremonies. The author states that there are permanent and temporary taboos. The former comprise priests and chiefs as well as the dead and everything that has belonged to them. Temporary taboos attach themselves to certain conditions, such as menstruation and childbed, the status of the warrior before and after the expedition, the activities of fishing and of the chase, and similar activities. A general taboo may also be imposed upon a large district like an ecclesiastical interdict, and may then last for years. If I judge my readers' impressions correctly, I dare say that after hearing all that was said about taboo, they are far from knowing what to understand by it and where to store it in their minds. This is surely due to the insufficient information I have given and to the omission of all discussions concerning the relation of taboo to superstition, to belief in the soul, and to religion. On the other hand, I fear that a more detailed description of what is known about taboo would be still more confusing. I can therefore assure the reader that the state of affairs is really far from clear. We may say, however, that we deal with a series of restrictions which these primitive races impose upon themselves. This and that is forbidden without any apparent reason, nor does it occur to them to question this matter, for they subject themselves to these restrictions as a matter of course, and are convinced that any transgression will be punished automatically in the most severe manner. There are reliable reports that innocent transgressions of such prohibitions have actually been punished automatically. For instance, the innocent offender who had eaten from a forbidden animal became deeply depressed, expected his death, and then actually died. The prohibitions mostly concern matters which are capable of enjoyment, such as freedom of movement and unrestrained intercourse. In some cases they appear very ingenious, evidently representing abstinences and renunciations. In other cases their content is quite incomprehensible. They seem to concern themselves with trifles and give the impression of ceremonials. Something like a theory seems to underlie all these prohibitions. It seems as if these prohibitions are necessary because some persons and objects possess a dangerous power which is transmitted by contact with the object so charged, almost like a contagion. The quantity of this dangerous property is also taken into